Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're kicking off a really massive journey. We're looking at sound, not just as art or even language, but as this fundamental, code. We're diving into the whole history of communication, tracing this code from the very beginning right up to today, where things feel kind of paradoxical information-wise.
That's exactly right. And our sources today, they're mostly drawn from this really fascinating project. It's called the Concert Evolution Project. Think of it as like a global group of musicians, historians, scientists, all exploring how music has always been used, and still is, to encode and pass on essential knowledge across huge amounts of time.
Right, passing things down. And our mission here, it's sort of inspired by the Turkish musician Erkan Or. We want to really see music as a kind of time machine. We're going to track how this knowledge code evolved, starting way back billions of years ago, biologically, and follow it right up to, the communication problems we see now.
Yeah, and to start, you really have to grasp the timescales we're talking about. It's huge. The researchers, they point out that the universe itself has been making sounds, sort of cosmic concert, for maybe 14 billion years.
14 billion, wow.
And life on Earth. It joined in about 3.8 billion years ago. And it established its own code pretty early on. DNA, that four-key chemical language.
That starting point, 14 billion years, it really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Makes our whole human story seem like, a very recent development in a long-running show. But here's something that really jumped out from the research.
What's that?
That sound communication, as a way for things to interact, popped up around 500 million years ago, and it seems it came before more complex senses like sight or taste. Sound was like the immediate basic connection right after the Cambrian explosion.
It's incredibly deep in the fabric of life.
Oh.
And this ability, this coding with sound, it goes way beyond just us humans, Homo sapiens. We see the pattern deep, deep in the fossil record. The sources mention dinosaurs, right? 230 million years ago.
Dinosaurs making music? Sort of.
Well, maybe not music as we think of it, but complex sound communication. And their descendants, birds, definitely. They possess what the researchers call dynastic musical knowledge, meaning essential info, identity. It's passed down through generations using complex songs.
Okay, dynastic knowledge. And then there are the whales and dolphins, of course. Their songs carry histories stretching back maybe 50 million years.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing. To think that the same sort of biological coding that lets us compose a symphony or, just order a coffee, it might have started in a dinosaur's throat or a whale's clicks and whistles.
So if this sound code is that ancient, that fundamental, what's its most basic unit? Like the simplest building block that survived.
Okay, yeah, that's the next big question. If there's this primal code that lasted, what does it actually sound like?
Right.
And this is where they introduce the idea of the universal interval. And honestly, this feels like a real aha moment in the research. They highlight this simple two-note call, a basic cadence. And it seems to be almost universally recognized, used across time, across species even.
A two-note thing, like a survival signal.
Pretty much, yeah. Think about a cuckoo bird, that call. Now think about the first sounds a human baby makes. Mama, Papa, or how we often say hello with that rising tone.
Yeah.
Or even just a doorbell, ding dong. It's that simple melodic interval, often a major or minor third. It seems almost hardwired into us. It's the simplest melody possible that still gets across attention or safety or just basic information.
But why just two notes? Why not something more complex? Or just one long sound?
Well, the thinking is, its strength is its simplicity and its emotional clarity. It doesn't take much energy to make, it cuts through background noise, and there's no ambiguity. It's efficient code. If the point is transmitting vital info, this simple thing survived because it couldn't really be mistaken.
Okay, that makes sense. The continuity is just amazing. So let's move the timeline forward a bit, past the purely biological code into symbolic human stuff. How does that sound code start mixing with visual things, early writing from our ancestors?
Well, we find these traces of symbolic thinking that are, frankly, almost unsettlingly old. There's the Trinil shell, found in Java. It has the zigzag pattern scratched onto it. Deliberate, not random.
And that's 500,000 years old?
500,000. And maybe not even made by Homo sapiens, some other hominid species. Someone or something was thinking symbolically.
Wow. And then much later, Blombos Cave in South Africa.
Right, Blombos. Geometric patterns etched onto ochre pieces. That's over 70,000 years ago. Clear symbolic capacity.
Okay, so symbols are ancient. And this leads to the work on caves by Pedro Cantalejo. He had a different take on caves, right? Not just shelters.
Exactly. He really flips the script on how we view these ancient spaces. He sees cave systems as the first unified cultural spaces.
Yeah.
Not just places to sleep, but the earliest museums, or maybe the first concert halls.
Concert halls. How does sound fit into that picture?
Well, they were places where art, drawing, and music all happened together in the same space. It shows that right from the start, humans didn't just need shelter, they needed these cultural hubs to process and share knowledge. And music was part of that.
And there's actual musical evidence in the caves themselves.
Oh yeah, we're talking lithophones. Basically stalactites and stalagmites that were tuned, or at least selected for their pitch, and then struck like musical rocks.
Tuned rocks.
Yeah, in places like Ardales or Nurja caves, and this might go back 100,000 years. Imagine using the natural acoustics of your home as an instrument.
That's incredible. And there were other instruments too.
Definitely. Bone flutes, some dating back 35,000 years. And really interesting, some examples strongly suggest they were made by Neanderthals.
Neanderthals, so music wasn't just a sapiens thing.
It seems not. Sophisticated musical culture looks like a shared trait among different hominids. And don't forget bull roarers, those flat pieces of wood on a string. You whirl them around.
Right, they make that deep humming sound.
That's exactly. Used for maybe 20,000 years. They produce these really low-frequency sounds, probably vital for rituals, maybe inducing trance states.
The power of bass.
Yeah.
Even back then. So, okay, we shared this communication ability with other hominids, and then around 50,000 years ago, the sources talk about an expressive awakening happening globally.
Yeah, it's like the cultural code suddenly went viral. Symbolic stuff, like those painted hand stencils, starts popping up everywhere almost simultaneously. Europe, Southeast Asia, like the Ling Ling caves in Sulawesi, Indonesia.
It's the global rollout. So if we follow that cultural code into the beginnings of written history, we end up in Sumer.
Right, Italy. And that's where we meet Muazzez İlmiye Çığ as the Sumerologist. She worked directly with the oldest cuneiform tablets.
And she found this amazing sense of continuity looking at texts like Gilgamesh. What was her big takeaway about this ancient code?
It's staggering, really, because it's so simple. She basically concluded that fundamental human feelings, love, sadness, ambition, jealousy, they haven't really changed in 5,000 years.
5,000 years, and the core emotions are the same.
That's her finding. The emotional code, the human operating system, seems remarkably stable. The technology around us changes, but the core feelings don't.
But wait, if we haven't changed emotionally in 5,000 years, what does that mean for our idea of progress or evolution?
That's a great question. It suggests maybe our evolution is more in the technical codes, the social structures, but not so much in that deep emotional source code that music taps into so well. And to illustrate this, she points to Shulgi's Lullaby, a Sumerian royal text.
Which she thinks might be the oldest recorded song ever.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And if you connect this back to what we were saying earlier...
The universal interval.
Yeah.
Two-note call.
Exactly. The connection is right there. A lullaby is often built on that repetitive, simple, melodic contour. It's that primal call between mother and child. Safety, reassurance. It's the universal interval becoming a foundational cultural act, recorded in history.
Okay, so from 5,000-year-old tablets, we jump to something possibly 10 times older. The Australian Aboriginal songlines. Jose Cervera studied these.
Yes, and they are just breathtaking. Cervera's work shows these aren't just songs in the way we might think. They are living archives.
Living archives, how so?
They literally codify essential knowledge.
Yeah.
Geography, star maps, calendars, tribal law, ecological knowledge about plants and animals. It's all encoded in the songs. And the antiquity could be immense, maybe reaching back 70,000 years.
So it's like a walking, singing GPS combined with a legal system and an encyclopedia.
Pretty much. And their power. They preserve geological memory. Get this. Some songs apparently contain details about the coastline before the sea levels rose dramatically after the last ice age.
That was 10,000 years ago.
Right. The landscape changed drastically, but the songs remember the old landscape. They carry that vital knowledge through a massive environmental catastrophe. That ensures the knowledge isn't lost.
That is incredible. And what's really fascinating is the purpose they see in singing. It's not just entertainment.
Not at all. It's functional. For these cultures, the fundamental job of a human being is to sing. You have to sing the landscape, the roads, the mountains, the water holes into existence, keep it ordered, maintain the dreaming time. If the singing stops, the world literally falls apart.
Singing as a vital act of world maintenance. Wow. Okay, so singing preserves the code. But codes aren't always static, right? They change, evolve. How does that fit in? especially with, mistakes or variations.
That's a perfect transition. That tension is tackled really well by the musician Jorge Pardo. He has this fantastic perspective on how musical styles evolve. He argues that in creativity, errors don't really exist. They're just friction, the stuff that actually generates new systems.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, he talks about guaguanco, the Cuban rumba style. He suggests it might have started when someone badly copied an older rumba rhythm. That mistake wasn't thrown out, it became the core of a whole new, complex, and vibrant style.
So a wrong note isn't wrong, it's just unexpected.
Exactly. Pardo says an error in music is just something that doesn't fit the immediate harmonic expectation. But when he improvises, if he hits one, he doesn't stop. He embraces it, works with it, makes that wrong note the starting point for a new idea, a new harmonic direction. It's essential for an evolving code.
That's a really powerful creative philosophy. Embrace the unexpected. But what about when preserving an old code clashes with new pressures, like modernity or tourism?
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin. We see that struggle in the work of Dewa Alit, the gamelan musician in Bali. He's right in the middle of that tension tradition versus the modern world. Alit talks about the loss of the culture of hearing. He feels modern life pushes for quick, easy entertainment, and people lose the ability or patience for the deep, focused listening that traditional gamelan demands.
So Pardo's evolution, embracing the new, potentially threatens Alit's tradition, which needs that deep attention.
It's a real dilemma. Alit's work, like his piece Caviar, is actually about that struggle. It's about freedom, about taking this music that was once just for the royal courts and bringing it to the public, challenging them to really listen again.
Okay, and the philosopher Brian Mooney ties all this history and cultural struggle to some really big ideas, right? Back to Plato and Pythagoras.
He does. He reminds us that music has always been linked to these deep philosophical quests, the harmony of the spheres, the search for truth, justice, beauty. Ideas echoed by Sufi thinkers too. Sound is a path to understanding the cosmos.
But there's a warning there too, isn't there?
Yes. Mooney stresses that music is the double-edged sword. It can build bridges, foster understanding between cultures, but it can also be weaponized, used as code to incite violence, division. He makes a great point about the word protest. Originally, it meant to stand for something, to witness, to affirm belief using sound, not just to be against things.
That really reframes how you hear a lot of music. And he also comes back to Elliot's point about listening.
Absolutely. Mooney emphasizes that appreciating music requires that deep, attentive listening. It's not just background noise. It's a path to contemplation, to aesthetic pleasure, maybe even self-transcendence, connecting with the mystery of existence.
Which brings us crashing into the present day. We've got more codes than ever before, right? Digital, AI, complex, scientific languages.
An absolute explosion of codes, all designed to organize knowledge, communicate precisely.
Yeah.
But remember Muazzez İlmiye Çığ, the Sumerologist. She has a final warning for us looking back from 5,000 years ago.
What does the oldest recorded history tell us about now?
Her ultimate conclusion, after studying millennia of human behavior and tests, despite all our sophisticated codes, all our technology, the single biggest problem humanity faces is a lack of real communication.
Wow, more codes, less connection.
That's the paradox. And the sources give this incredibly chilling historical example. It just perfectly illustrates how fragile our codes could be, especially language, in critical moments.
You mean the story about the Japanese word during World War II?
Exactly, the word mokusatsu. And it's this dangerous ambiguity. It can mean to ignore with contempt, like a dismissive silence, or it can mean something much more nuanced diplomatically, to refrain from comment. Essentially, no comment at this time.
Okay.
When the Japanese government used that word in their reply to the Allied ultimatum before Hiroshima, the interpretation that took hold in Washington was the harsh one: ignore with disdain.
And that misinterpretation, or maybe just lack of understanding the nuance?
It directly contributed to the decision to use the atomic bomb, a catastrophic failure in reading the code. It's terrifying. It shows that precision isn't enough if there's no cultural empathy, no deep understanding of context.
A truly devastating example of failed communication. And this brings us back full circle to Erkan Osur, the musician who inspired this whole deep dive. How does he respond to all this?
Well, he defines himself in a really interesting way. Not just as a musician, but as someone interested in thinking through music. For him, music isn't just art. It's an essential habit, almost biological, like eating or sleeping. It's a way of life. And crucially, it's a tool for finding solutions, for healing these kinds of deep communication breakdowns.
And the sources mention him performing inside a cave.
Yeah, this in a cave in Turkey. Performing his piece, Gel Benim Bir Derman which means come and help relieve suffering. And apparently he physically drives the tip of his instrument, the kopuz, into the rock wall while playing. Music as a physical, functional act aimed directly at human suffering.
Wow. Okay. So summing up this huge journey, what's the core message?
I think it's that music, sound, this coded communication, it's not just decoration. It's intrinsic to life, to survival. It's our oldest time machine, a tool for making meaning, for seeking justice, for holding on to vital knowledge across millennia. And maybe the path to, well, health lies in that intercultural understanding that comes from deep attentive listening.
Right. So we'll leave you with maybe two key things to chew on. First, Brian Mooney's idea. Music opens us up to a necessary, maybe even healthy sense of mystery. And second, Erkenogor's very practical view. Music as an essential daily habit for, let's say, intellectual and emotional survival.
And building on that, inspired by those Aboriginal songlines, those vital stories that keep the world ordered, we wanted to ask you, the listener, directly. What are the crucial songs, the essential connections, the vital knowledge you're keeping alive through your own daily effort, your listening, your sharing? And maybe just as important, which ones are you perhaps letting fade away without even realizing it in your own time? Something to think about. What's your role in this ongoing concert evolution?